We're going to talk about what it's really like to live in the French countryside. Number one.
First up, bugs and spiders. They're just everywhere. They're unavoidable. When we were in the US, my thought was, if there's bugs and spiders, it's because you're not cleaning, you're not taking care of things. No. When you've got a house that's a couple hundred years old, it doesn't matter how well you clean. They're just all over. And you just kind of got to accept living with them.
They've lived here longer than us.
Yeah, they'll be here when we're gone.
Yeah.
He's right here, behind the box. He must have been like that big.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Living in the French countryside is different than living in small town USA in many ways, but some not at all. Everyone is still going to know your business, just like if you lived in a small town in the US.
Yeah, you're always around. You can't get away from everyone, for better or worse.
Right.
You can't get away.
And it's a lot about relationships.
Yeah.
And you will see everyone you know every time you go to the market.
The next big difference, things are just closed sometimes. Not just sometimes, often.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to close for the people who own them, because these are a lot of small businesses, for their days off. So honestly, good luck trying to find a place for lunch on a Monday.
Yeah.
And they're going to close for vacations, because again, there's no extra staff just hanging around to cover. They just got to close the place up to go on vacation. And then sometimes, depending on how touristy of an area you're in, things might close for like a whole season.
Yeah, mid-October, they might be shut down for 3 months.
Yeah, we were, or sometimes even 6, mid-October to Easter, right? We were looking for a bakery the other day, looked everywhere and realized, oh, we can't find it because it just closed for the season.
Yeah. So coming to the land of croissants and boulangeries and viennoiseries, you kind of have this expectation that there's gonna be good baked goods everywhere.
Falling from the sky,
Everywhere.
croissants.
And there are.
There are.
But not every bakery is the best bakery you've ever been to.
Right. And the downside of being in the countryside is, if you're like in Paris and you realize one boulangerie or bakery or patisserie isn't your favorite, you just go to another one down the street. If you live in a village or a small town, first of all, you're lucky to have the bakery.
And it might be a long haul to your other option.
So you just keep trying things and you figure out what they do best. and go with that. So things to do, entertainment, lessons, extracurricular activities for your kids, places to work out, they're not as obvious in the countryside as they are in the US, even if they exist. For example, a yoga studio. I'm not sure I've ever seen an actual yoga studio yet.
Not out here. Yeah.
And yet, I can tell you 3 different places you can go do yoga within a 15-minute radius of where we are. One is in a beautiful studio that's converted in a converted barn in the middle of a vineyard. One is at a salle de fête in the middle of a village. A yoga teacher comes there once a week. And another one is at a winery, of all places. But the wine owner happens to also be a certified yoga instructor and teaches in the middle of her vineyard once a week. But you won't find any of those obvious. So
yeah, the companies just aren't reaching out to you in the same way that they would be in America to make themselves obvious.
Yeah. So the websites all look like they're from the 1990s. You're going to have to call people or Facebook message them to find out about schedules and booking things. Or, you might have to find them through the Marie or on posters. In short, it's just going to be a little more work. And if you're staying in a place, once you figure that stuff out, you're
easy.
good. It's easy.
Yeah.
But you've got to be patient and you've got to kind of dig in a little bit and be ready for that it's not going to be served up on a silver platter if you want your kid to get violin lessons, say.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find the guy who teaches in his living room, probably.
Yep.
Yep. He might have retired from the London Orchestra, but he's not going to have a sign.
Another one is just walkability. I think there's the expectation, we certainly did, that not only is everything walkable, but everything is easily walkable. You can get everywhere you need to go on a wonderful set-aside path for you to walk down. It's going to be short, easy, and a wonderful experience to walk to.
That was our European vision.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Even in the middle of the countryside.
Yeah, and places are walkable,
yes,
but it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a long walk, sometimes there's no sidewalks, sometimes The roads are very narrow.
Yeah, which is okay if they're not a busy road and you're just snaking through the back roads of the vineyards, but some of those roads are pretty busy and still small.
Yeah, until you're here on the ground, it's hard to know which paths are good ones for walking and which are not.
So another thing about living in a small town or village out in the French countryside, and this is again not so different than sometimes in the U.S.
Sure.
First, you're going to have to deal with a septic system. All right. If you are not committed to living in a big city or in a town center or in the center of the village, just know it's going to happen. You're going to get a septic. You're going to be friends.
Yeah.
The second thing is though, trash arrangements.
Very widely across the countryside, but here at least, yeah.
So we got first of all, recycling is taken very seriously in France, which is very cool. But you're also super responsible to make sure this happens, and you get very small trash allowances. So you have to be really aware of how you're sorting and what is going in where. But then you got to haul all that stinky stuff in the back of your car up to the dump station. What do you call this thing?
Yeah, dump station.
Yeah. And so you can like dump in all your recycling stuff, no problem, but you have to remember your trash card to open the trash thing, because those you pay for every single little bag that goes in there. And the worst of it is, like in the summer season, when everyone's having parties on the weekend, because evidently that's what we do.
Yeah.
There's like wine
There's a
bottles
lot of party
everywhere.
debris.
Yeah. When they get full and they haven't had time to dump them yet. So then you're like, oh, well now I got to take my stuff back home, put it back in my kitchen until they've come by and cleaned out all the trash, and then we can dump it again. It's an ordeal. I could go on, but I should just say it feels like an ordeal.
And throwing that stuff in the car, hauling it in, throwing it in the repository, it's not a big deal, but it was not my image of the French countryside life at all.
You know, the next one, there's definitely a mental image of the French countryside, right?
Yes.
It's pristine, it's historic, it's very clean and...
Well, it's curated.
Curated, that's
like
the word.
Curated, shabby chic, like
Yeah.
there's crumbling stone, but it's like a particular...
It's always in the perfect soft light, and it always looks nice.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, and there's lots of pretty scenes here.
There's lots of those,
but
right.
there's real life happening as well.
Right.
Sometimes buildings haven't been painted in a long, long time.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, you think of the beautiful, picturesque French countryside and vineyards, but the reality is that's a farm. They're growing something. And, you know, the barns, they're not out there always with antique tractors and, you know, pulling into like the 17th century barns. Sometimes it's a big metal building that works well for what they need to get done.
Yeah, sometimes the crumbling barn looks beautiful, and sometimes the crumbling barn looks kind of run down.
Yes, that's the difference. When we imagined moving to Europe, I think we had this vision of no matter where we were in the country, that we would just be able to jump on a train and get to somewhere else, be it in France or another country. And
Sure.
it would just be like, zoom.
Yeah. There may not be a metro stop in every city, but there's
Right.
going to be a train station in every city.
And this was just, I think what I imagined Europe was. They have trains, and they do. And I would say public transportation by far is still a level above, even out in the countryside, than what I would have ever expected in the US.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, especially in more sparsely populated parts of the country, not every town has a train station. And if there is a train station, it doesn't mean that there's a high-speed rail going there that's going to get you, you know, from here to Switzerland. So while it is present, it's not to the extent here in the countryside that we first imagined. So if that's something really important to you, you definitely want to take that into consideration.
Yeah.